synchronize data, we use a class or an interface called the data item interface, and this facilitates synchronization of data. It has a restriction of a max of about 100 kilobytes of information, and requires you to have a unique path to identify that data on the system. However, you're usually going to be using the data map, which is a kind of a wrapper around the data item and allows you to interact with the data like you would a bundle. And then Android handles serialization and deserialization. The requests are sent to the device using the Google Play SDK API. And this is done with the request mechanism. And here are the two classes that are used for that. And the request, the data map request is the one you're generally going to be using. This is an example then of how to connect to the wearable data layer. The important piece here is to notice the add API where it says the wearable API, and then to make sure you then call connect on the client. Sometimes you will get an exception if the user doesn't have the Android Wear app installed on the phone. If you try to build this API or if you try to connect to the client and you've added the wearable API and the Android Wear app isn't on the phone, it'll throw an exception. In that case, you want to have two instances of the client in your app, and just check that exception and build a different instance of the client. This is an example of how to send the data. Really straightforward. As you can see, you get an instance of the map, and you add the string that you're going to send to the device, and you just push it through to the client. In order to listen for events, you can use a wearable listener service, and this is registered in the manifest like any other service, and the activity or the service will be started by the system when an event comes through. Otherwise, if you only need to listen for that data at a certain time, you can set up the activity to be the listener. The wearable listener service is provided with the the wearable SDK, and you subclass it and you override the on-data change method, and then in the manifest register this intent filter. In a listener activity, you'd want to implement those three interfaces, and then when the connection to the API client is successful, you then want to add the activity as a listener, like that, and then override again the on-data change event handler there. Sometimes you want to send larger files to the wearable device, and Android lets you do that through what's called asset, and this will let you send like an image or sound file or something bigger than 100K max. However, it can be really slow over the Bluetooth connection and takes up a lot of space. So you want to be judicious about how you use it and careful you're not sending more information you need. So often, if you're having a handset application, go out to the internet and get the image. You want to scale that down to the size that you need for the wearable before you send it over, instead of doing that conversion on the wearable side. And that's really straightforward again. You just use the data request and you put the asset right into there like that, or the data map and use the same method there. Android also, or the Wear SDK also has Messages API, and this is more for remote procedure calls or call and response messaging types. It doesn't do any syncing. It's just one-way communication. And it's, again, very, very simple API, just one method call there. And to receive, you just override the on message as received, and this is either in the wearable listener service, or if you implement that in an activity. And that's what we've got. And all the code that we've written to go along with these demos is available in that GitHub repository there. Any questions?